Okay, my name is Gibson Maina. I'm an activist and community organizer. We have all heard about Willy Mutunga. I've been an activist, been an organizer for decades. He even rose to be the first Chief Justice under the new constitution. Uh, Today we are privileged to have you today.
Thank you.
To talk to you around your activism, the judiciary, and also let's talk about the judiciary.
Yes.
You've been a player in the judiciary, rose to be the Chief Justice under the new constitution. After the new constitution, when you got into office as the Chief Justice, do you think, do you feel during that time that the state of the judiciary or the mechanisms that had been put in place had made the judiciary independent of other arms of government?
Oh, that's a great question. We're talking about struggles here. The independence of the judiciary, both of the judges and the institution, the judicial officers, is guaranteed under the Constitution. Okay? And people might say in abstract terms, but it's there. You know, the idea is breathe life into it. So I was familiar with the Constitution. I had been part of constitution making projects and struggles. And the reason why I applied basically was that I knew the new judiciary was going to be important. And I thought I could play my role there, a limited role. So I had the vision, and I found other people in the judiciary, who are in that vision of transforming it. The judiciary itself had reflected on what reforms were necessary, and there were documents that we could look at. It's only that there was no political will to implement them. But it became very clear, from the word go, that the independence of the judiciary is actually resisted by the two arms and the institutions, but it's also resisted internally. Okay, there are people within the judiciary who think that their independence means, taking instructions from the politicians, or people who think that if the leader is from the ethnic community, therefore it's okay. But what we did was basically, to come up with policies, that would change that status quo. We also came up with Judiciary Training Institute, that was the school for judicial officers and judges and staff, to basically, deal with these issues. And because the judiciary is always at a crossroads, it's either becomes for people by respecting and adhering to the decrees of the Constitution, or it becomes an appendage of the ruling groups and the cartels, the foreign interests and so forth. And we have that history. And that history is the one that, when you look at the provisions of the Constitution, that's what the Constitution wanted to change. Because without independent institutions, without checks and balances, the promise of democracy disappears. Okay, so we basically use the Constitution, the vision of the Constitution, to basically say the judiciary is actually expected, to make sure that the Constitution is implemented. So cases that come to the judiciary, they have to be dealt with within the Constitution and so forth. And the checks and the balances started to grow when public interest litigation would basically check the executive, check parliament, check other institutions
Yes.
that are not complying with the constitution, and that way the judiciary has done very well. But what I want to emphasize is that judiciary hasn't become an institution completely that knows its vision and avoids the internal divisions that actually work against their independence and integrity. That is what has to be done. Institutions, once they become autonomous, they become independent, then they become useful, to the country. But if you have an institution where some people can be manipulated, some people even subvert the independence of the judiciary itself. That is the struggle, that the judiciary faces. It faced us as well. And I can tell you that after 5 years, I can't claim that judiciary had become internally and externally, an institution. So it's a continuing struggle, in my view. Yeah.
Because there are different types of people, different types of lawmakers or people in the judiciary. So there are those people within the judiciary, of course, who are positive and who would like to see this institution become like independent and something like that. So what mechanisms or what tools do the judiciary or members within the judiciary have at their disposal in trying to resist an oppressive or a regressive executive?
Well, they buy a total obedience to the constitution. The judiciary doesn't go asking people, okay, bring cases, so forth. They're brought in by citizens. The major tool is, the constitution, because that's the supreme law, and that's what governs even the judges, themselves, how to do it. But one of the things that I've argued about or written about is that the constitution has this politics, and therefore you can talk of transformative judicial politics, based on the constitution. But there is always a struggle within the judiciary about that issue, that judges do politics, okay, in the decisions that they make. And outside the decisions they make, as Chief Justice, I was doing politics on a daily basis. When I'm asked to go and open a courtroom or a new court, I'll have a speech. That speech is not a judgment, but it's a speech where I spoke to issues of cartels. I spoke to issues of the state of the nation. I attacked political leaders if I thought they were wrong and so forth. And that's a position where judges also take positions. They cannot say they are neutral. When there is injustice and dictatorship and oppression, exploitation and domination, you cannot say you are neutral. Okay? All we're saying is that when we are judging, we go by the constitution because it's a letter of the constitution. Outside the judgments, we are Kenyans. We have our own political views. So my leaning was always pro people. Okay, outside, outside the judgments, because the judgments, you are not writing alone. You write with other people, and there are issues of consensus and so forth. And you might differ on what the constitution actually says. I mean, that's part of the struggle. But once you step out of the wigs and marindas and so forth, and you're talking to a primary school. You can do politics. You can talk about your own vision and so forth. So I would say they are various tools, and they come in because judicial officers and judges are individuals, and they have their own political, ideological views that can form what is called judicial discretion. Um, but the other tools, of course, is people forget that the judiciary has over 5,000 people. So the judiciary has clerks, what we call the judicial staff, magistrates, registrars, and so forth. They are categorized as judicial officers, and then you have the judges. So there are associations in the judiciary. There's a Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association. There's the Kenyan Women Judges Association. There's the Kenya Staff, association, within it.
Yeah.
And so those are tools that are very, very, very effective in making sure that the Chief Justice or the JSC don't become yes, because they can. That's the nature of power. So they check. Those are tools, checks and balance, and because of that, in the judiciary, we were able, for example, to make sure that insurance covered everybody. The salary disparities, were dealt with. Loans for cars and houses became universal.
Yeah.
Before then,
They were
the judges basically, very few judges had the lion's share of those benefits. So with the salaries and the remuneration commission, we were able to, to do that. But for me, the greatest tool that I can give is the people themselves.
the people of the citizens.
The citizens, because once citizens have confidence in what an institution like the judiciary is doing, then even the powers that be are careful. But if the citizens still think that you are appendages of politicians, you can't be trusted, you are taking bribes and so forth, it becomes
Difficult to win the
it
trust.
lacks to win the trust. And one of the reforms we undertook was to create what are called court users committees, so that in every court, even in the rural areas, there is a representation from the public, to basically also check what the administration of justice is doing. Yeah, giving voices, to those groups. But I think that's, for me, for any institution, accountability is first to the people, because the judiciary derives power from the people. Okay, so that becomes important even outside the formal justice system, which is accessed by only 5%. We went at great length to deal with the African justice systems, because a lot of people go there, elders, pastors, councils, all manner of things. So that was also very, very important, because the access to justice means access to justice for
everyone.
Yeah, and so somebody who is going to the chief today
is seeking justice.
And there must be that justice. Somebody who has a dispute and they go to their pastor, for arbitration, or they go to the bishop, or go to the imam, or they go to the council of the community. So that justice is important, and there has to be integration of it. And I think that that's what I'm saying. These tools don't exist, are available, they don't exist in a vacuum, but they need fundamentally politics, which is probable.
and to be put to use.
Yes, yeah.